Hi, this is Richard Fields with this week's report from the fields. Last week, we solved the immigration problem with a simple one-paragraph replacement for the Immigration and Naturalization Act. Anyone can immigrate. If once here an immigrant commits a crime or applies for government welfare, they're out of here. Congressman Correa, if you'd like the text of my proposed bill, give me a holler. This week, we'll solve the trade problem. Recently, President Trump went to a steel plant in the United States to crow about how his tariffs on imported steel were saving American steel jobs. Maybe the president should do a little elementary study in metallurgy. Steel is largely iron ore, which the U.S. produces a lot of. But to make it steel, a number of other metals are mixed with the molten iron ore. One is nickel. Nickel is what makes steel stainless by providing corrosion resistance, kind of necessary for EV battery casings. Nickel adds strength and toughness. Less metal is needed to build a stronger bridge. Nickel makes steel more ductile, reducing cracking. Nickel makes steel more resistant to high temperatures, useful in jet engines. Depending on concentration, nickel can make steel more magnetic, or in higher concentrations, non-magnetic, useful in MRI machines. Nickel reduces metal fatigue. Your springs stay springier longer. In short, a lot of steel's usefulness comes from the addition of nickel. And guess where nickel comes from? Unfortunately, the U.S. is only the world's 9th largest producer. Indonesia alone produces 100 times what we do. The top countries combined produce 177 times more than we do. And they include China, Russia, and Canada, as well as Indonesia. And guess who funded the building of Indonesia's premier mine? China. Before we run off half-cocked with exorbitant tariffs on imported steel, we may want to consider that a lot of the places we want to tariff are our only realistic suppliers of nickel. And without nickel, we won't produce too much steel. We need to import nickel. Adam Smith explained the concept in The Wealth of Nations over 300 years ago. Despite Peter Navarro's fever dreams, the law of comparative advantage has not changed. We're better off importing things if doing so is cheaper than producing them ourselves, and exporting things in which we do have the comparative advantage. Sure, it's technically possible to produce bananas in a greenhouse in North Dakota, but it's a lot cheaper to import them from Nicaragua. Nicaragua has the comparative advantage in bananas. We have the comparative advantage in designing NVIDIA computer chips. The one and only reason we have an overall trade deficit with the rest of the world is because we, quote, manufacture, unquote, dollars to pay for stuff. So here's a way to end the trade deficit. Quit manufacturing the world's reserve currency and return the world to honest money, the gold standard. Our part and the Fed. Free trade with everyone. No tariffs, no non-tariff trade barriers. In order to avoid putting two policies into one bill, this might require two bills. First, a bill to end the Federal Reserve and return to gold and silver, the money specified in the Constitution. Second, repeal all tariff laws and regulations and rescind all executive orders related to trade. One more call out to my Congressman Lou Correa. If you need help drafting this legislation, let me know. I'm Richard Fields, and that's this week's Report from the Fields. See you again next week.